Before going to give the floor to the next speaker, Sri Paul Nicodemus, we had a poll that has already been running. Hope you can follow the poll parallelly. Before that, I love to mention that there is a wonderful response for the video assignment that is given. All your videos are submitted to the assignment, and there is a thorough check happening, and shortly the results can be sent to you to your emails. And thank you for your happy responses over there. Whenever I have seen your video response, you are energetic, you are lively, and then you are really meeting to one of the important outcomes that we have set. One of the outcomes is teachers or the students who participate in this activity should be engaged, more engaged, and then should be ready, more lively towards any activity or any challenge that is set before them. So with this, I can, all right, there is even a result of the poll of Tirthankar sir's activity. The role of print media as well as electronic media in promoting and developing English language is major. There is an 86% respondents said agree, or then not all the time. 14% is really talking about not all the time. In this globalized, fast-running world, learning language from print media is an old way from ancient times, so that it is why electronic media has shown its new trends, new technology, new way of educating ESL learners. All is very effective. Yes, there are 98% agreed on this. Introducing electronic media supporting materials may help transform the teaching techniques of English in general and reading skills in particular. Even this is also agreed. Almost the questions are in line with participants as well as expected by the resource person. All that is happening, and at the end, this FDP is coming out with the right outcome too. People blindly trust in the media as a power to give them news, amusement, and education. Great. There is 30% which disagrees. This is also to be counted. Some clever guys, 9% cannot say. That is also to be understood. And newspapers are the most popular form print media, as it is affordable and reachable, and the most inexpensive way to reach huge masses quickly. Yes, they said yes. The electronic media can turn into an effective and seventh one. Print media is composed of newspapers, community news, letters, magazines, books, and other publications. Thank God, all the participants are aware that this is true. So with this, I'll welcome the rapporteur for the next session with our special thanks to Tirthankar Chakrabarti sir. And I now request Dhyana Jyotsna ma'am to introduce Professor Paul. Paul Nicodemus is one good old interesting friend of Visakhapatnam, and then he worked with us at LENDI for some time. He is by profession a photographer and a writer, and he loves to now talk about the important idea behind how to use gadgets, and then he has entitled the topic with camera. So let's now talk about his session, and I request Dhyana Jyotsna to introduce him. All this time you're muted, ma'am. All this time you're muted, ma'am. Kindly restart the show.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much. A very pleasant morning to everybody on this virtual platform who attended our FDP. I am Dhyanjyotsna Reddy, an assistant professor of English in Lendi College. I am very privileged to introduce our honorable resource person, Shri Paul Spurgeon Nicodemus, who is a photographer and writer from a city of destination, Visakhapatnam. His passion lies in traveling and presenting a panoramic view of the world around him. He works as an assistant professor of English at Lendi Institute of Engineering and Technology, and later became a photojournalist and correspondent, come photo editor with the Times of India. He has been working as an executive editor at the Dance India, a monthly cultural magazine, and works on various other projects related to photography and writing. Under his firm, Paul Artographic. Paul is an avid traveler who has traveled to various places across India. So now, Sri Paul Nicodemus will talk about cam era, understanding cameras and gadgets. So, Paul sir, I request you to take your session. Thank you. Paul sir?
Yeah, he's getting ready.
Okay.
Paul is getting ready.
Yes, awaiting.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the lovely introduction.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. At the offset, I would like to thank Dr. V.V. Ramareddy, sir, Principal of Lendi Institute of Engineering and Technology, for this opportunity. And I would like to thank Haribabu, sir, Dr. Haribabu, sir, who is the Vice Principal and head of the Department of English. And at the same time, I would also like to thank the coordinator, Vinay Kumar, sir, and the team English for giving me this opportunity and for conducting such a eventful and resourceful FDP. So for the last 5 days, we can recollect, we have had eminent personalities, resource persons who have given us a lot of information, a lot of knowledge. And personally, I was very lucky to be part of this. Like, even I learned a lot from them, and I hope the same with you all. And today we have very limited time, and all of them have discussed about how photography, media, and communication can be used in the classroom or for communication. And today I'm going to touch upon the basics of photography, the practical side of photography, and how photography and its tools can be utilized properly. I think some of you have must be familiar with photography, and some of you must have been clicking photographs, making videos, but then there'll be some who need some information. And coordinator, Mr. Vinay Kumar sir, like, he asked me if I can speak about how to use the camera or the basics of photography. Before getting into the session, I would like to conduct a poll, just a small poll, so that I can understand the audience. So I want you all to just participate in the poll. The poll is live now. Can you see it on the screen? Am I audible? Hello?
You're audible, Paul sir. You're audible.
Yeah,
Audible,
please
Paul,
take the poll.
You are audible.
Thank you. Please. I can see 40% of you voted already. And this particular session, I want you all to be really attentive because we have less time. And I want you all to understand the basics of photography and how we can use it. All right, I'm ending the poll. Okay, so most of you are ready. And then, and you think photography and video play an important role in the present world. And yeah, all of you own a smartphone. So that's great. And apart from a smartphone, you also own a camera. That's also great, 54% of you. And how familiar are you with the photography? I'm a professional lone person. I know the basics, 54%. I don't know the basics, 36%. So for the benefit of everybody, we'll go through the basics once again. And before going to the basics, let's look into the topic today. So I'm talking about camera. Right now, if you look at the world around us, everybody has some or the other means of photographic tool in their pockets. And everybody is communicating through their photographs, which is good. And sometimes which is bad. We have discussed about the cons of having smartphones accessible with us all the time. At the same time, right now, like we're discussing about the good side of using these tools. That's the whole purpose of this FTP. And I would like to draw your attention to the main topic, photography, media, and communication. So what is photography? Photography is the art or practice of taking and processing photographs. So there are two elements involved in this. Like you take a picture and then you process it. That's when the complete procedure is complete. And then what is media? The main means of mass communication. So we discussed about broadcasting, publishing, and the internet, and how this can be used, made use of in the classrooms or to communicate something. So we've been discussing about it, and then we have an idea about it. And communication is imparting or exchanging of information by speaking, writing, or using some other media. So right now we are interested in some other media. Okay, we discussed about speaking, writing, and then we have also given you a task, or you are given a task to record a video about a photograph. Okay, so how to use this other medium is the question. So before going into it, just look at the history of cameras. Okay, So this is one of the earliest pictures recorded in Legras, probably in the 18th century. And then this is one of the earliest cameras that you can see on the screen. Nowadays, like everything is compact, but by then, in the 18th century, it's an invention, it's a discovery that revolutionized the world as we see it now. And cameras used to be really big boxes. This is a studio setup back in time. And this is the camera Brownie 2. I remember as a kid, like we had a camera of this sort, but then I never used it. But then it was there in the house like a relic. I used to play with it, but then I had no idea about what it could do. And then this is a Polaroid camera. And when Nikon created this, camera, it kind of again revolutionized the photography industry. Can somebody type in the chat box how many of you used or came across film? How many of you used film or have seen film? So somebody said, I came across and used it. Yes, I know. Yes, I know. Came across, used it. Seen films and used. Okay, great. So that was the era of films. It was limited. We could only take limited number of pictures, and everything has to be right. Before taking a picture, like people asked everybody to gather, and then the photographer got ready, and then the exposure was measured, and then they took a picture. And it was a tedious process. Once you click the picture, the film is taken into the dark room, and then the photographer spent hours and hours inside the dark room with the chemicals, and then he came out with a beautiful picture. It was a process. It was a beautiful process by then. Okay, but then it started evolving. So this is a digital camera manufactured by Nikon. Nikon is one of the leading photography manufacturers, camera manufacturers. So this again revolutionized the photographic industry. So once the digital came in, all the lacunae that we had with the film got all of a sudden opened a new world. And then people started clicking more pictures, and it became a bit better, a bit easy. And then instead of taking 32 pictures or the limited amount of pictures, now we were able to take many pictures, numerous pictures. And then it just started evolving. Many companies, many manufacturers joined the bandwagon, and then it just evolved. And can you see something on the screen now? Somebody says, then it was 120 rupees one roll. Wasted much money on the film, statistics on one roll. Okay, that's nice. Nice to know, sir. So now, when did the smartphone come into the market, or when was it invented? All of us think that Apple came up with a smartphone or manufactured the smartphone first, but then some research into it says that IBM came up with its smart device called Simon 15 years before Apple released the iPhone, like in 1992. All right, so it had a LCD screen, but then it was not advanced. But Apple really revolutionized and brought internet into the pockets. and then smartphone become a hot thing. So today, how many photos will be taken in 2020? So now everybody has, not everybody, at least half of the population in the world, or most of the population today, has access to some or the other device. And in India, it has been growing exponentially. So how many photographs will be taken in 2020? And the answer is 1.4 trillion photos will be taken in 2020. That's a huge number. So all of us with smartphones, we are clicking pictures, and then what are we doing with them, or how are we capturing them is the question, right? See, this is the recent development. Over 500 million Indians are now using smartphones, and the number is expected to grow. And if you look into the number of pictures taken, it seems 90% of the pictures are being taken by smartphone users in the world. So 90% or 85% is a large number. That shows that everybody with a smartphone is clicking. These are the leading manufacturers in the market when it comes to smartphones. So you have usual suspects: Samsung, Apple, Huawei, Oppo, Vivo, Xiaomi, LG, Lenovo. I think like all of us have something or the other. Which company do you use? Can you just type in the chat box? Okay, Samsung, Oppo, Realme, Vivo. So everybody is using one of these smartphones. All right, that's really great. So let's get into something else. So we have smartphones, which is in everybody's pocket, okay? And it's very easy to click a picture with a smartphone. You don't really have to do anything. You just open the camera app, and then you point it and you click. All right. But if you understand the concept of photography or the basics of photography, even with your smartphone, you can actually make beautiful pictures. All right. So that is the area of focus today, art of photography. So I'll try to explain a few basics and how a normal professional camera works, and how those principles can be applied to your smartphones as well. So on the screen, you can see Ansel Adams. He's one of the pioneers when it comes to photography. He's an American photographer. So he says photography is more than a medium for factual communication of ideas. It is a creative art. How many of you feel, or how many of you believe that photography is a creative art? Can you just type in the chat box, please? How many of you believe that photography is a creative art? Yeah, I do. So this is a beautiful quote from Ansel Adams, another quote. It says, "When words become unclear, I shall focus with photographs. When images become inadequate, I shall be content with silence." Okay, so this quote explains the purpose or the essence of photographs. Sometimes we will not be able to express with words, but then we can convey that with a photograph. So as I was talking, we have migrated from film to digital. The 200 on that, just remember that, like those days, you have 200, 400, 800, which signifies the sensitivity of the film. I'll discuss about that later. Just remember that. So when it comes to professional photography, okay, if you are clicking for social media or some other medium where you need not print it or blow it out of proportion or you're not broadcasting it, then smartphones are really good, and they have been evolving, and they will evolve. And recent launch of iPhone 12, with the recent launch of iPhone 12 in the Pro Max model, they've included and improved it so much so maybe the video quality kind of comes close to the professional cameras of today. So it's evolving. Maybe someday in the future, like it'll reach there. But for now, we cannot replace professional cameras with a cell phone when it comes to the quality. Okay, let's look into it. So these are the leading manufacturers of cameras. I'm talking about DSLRs or mirrorless cameras. So you have this huge thing when you compare it with something like this, an iPhone or a small phone, and now you have a chunky DSLR with a lens, with a body. Okay, and so these are the leading manufacturers. You can see Canon, Nikon, Sony, Panasonic, Olympus. How many of you have any one of these companies with you, or cameras manufactured by one of these companies with you? Can you type in the chat box? Okay, somebody says they have a Canon, they own a Canon, Sony, okay, Panasonic, Canon. All right. So you are familiar with these companies, and then you own some or the other product manufactured by these companies. All right. So these camera companies also manufacture different types of cameras. For example, this is a full frame camera. All right. This is a full frame camera. I'll explain what is full frame later. So full frame camera, it is a DSLR. DSLRs, like after film, film gave away to DSLRs, digital SLRs. SLR stands for single lens reflective camera. So it gave away to DSLRs. They're chunky. They have a pentaprism on top. So light goes in through the lens. All right. So the light goes into the lens. It hits the sensor, and it is reflected into a mirror. This is a pentaprism. Okay, and then you can see it through a viewfinder. And the proper way to hold is this. You can hold it for stability. All right. But then, like all the things in the world, technology has to evolve. That gave rise to mirrorless cameras. So film became DSLRs, and DSLRs now have are giving way to mirrorless cameras. For example, this is a camera that I have. It's a mirrorless camera. So what happened with the mirrorless is the size has considerably reduced. Okay, so the size has considerably reduced, and then now you don't have a pentaprism there. Instead of having a pentaprism, now the image is directly being shown on the screen. Okay, the image is directly being shown on the screen. All right, so mirrorless actually acts like your mobile phone. Your mobile phone cameras are mirrorless cameras. So technology has been evolving. All right, and then you have something like action cameras, which are very small. Can you see them? Which are very small, and you can lug it around, and you can wear it to your chest, wear it to your hand. You can take it anywhere, and it's waterproof. So these are action cameras, and these little monsters, they opened way for a plethora of things. So now, like, people have been going for a run, people have been riding motorcycles, and then they have been logging. vlogging with these kind of cameras, action cameras. So there are so many tools that we can use. There are 360 cameras which give you a 360-degree view of the world around you, and medium and traditional film cameras. All right. So medium format cameras are have bigger sensors. They are not practical. So for our purposes, we will focus on mobile cameras, DSLRs, mirrorless, and then action cameras. And you also have drones nowadays. I think everybody is familiar with these things. So basics of photography. Can I see some comments if you are there? Are you following? Are you there? Can you just type in the chat box?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll just discuss the basics of photography and how we can improve our skills, all right? So if you can understand these three things, this is called the exposure triangle, okay? So you have three elements, ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. How many of you are familiar with these terms? Can you just type in the chat box, please? ISO, aperture, shutter speed. All those, I think all those who own cameras might be able to, okay, somebody said no, please explain. Okay, don't use them well, okay. All right, so if you can understand or master these three things, you are, you can say like you almost captured the essence of photography. So ISO is the sensitivity of your sensor. Okay, so light comes through the lens and hits the sensor. All right, maybe I'll just show you. All right, can you see this? So inside there's a sensor. All right, when you click the shutter, all right, it opens and closes. All right, can you see it? All right, so the light hits this sensor and then the sensor records it. So what is ISO is how sensitive is the sensor when the light hits the sensor. Earlier it was measured in 200, 400 or 500, 200, 400, 800. So the bigger the number, more sensitive it is. Can you get that? Bigger the number, more sensitivity. So if you can read that, ISO controls the camera sensitivity to light. A low ISO setting means the camera will be less sensitive, while a higher ISO means it will be more sensitive to light. All right. So just get that in your head. Maybe if you can note it down, just note it down. Lower number, less light. Higher number, more light. Okay. That is regarding the ISO. You can adjust your ISO from your camera settings. I'll explain that a little later. And then you have aperture. So aperture is something like your eye. If you look at the eye, you have a pupil. And when you want to concentrate on something, the pupil opens. All right. The pupil opens and then we'll be able to focus, or we will be able to know the depth of field, like what we need to look at. All right. Sometimes we squint our eyes. Okay. So it's little similar. Can you see the opening? Can you see the opening in this? Okay. So when I change it, it actually opens. See? Can you see this?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is aperture. So if at all it's smaller, see, like it is small right now. So if the aperture is small, the depth of field or the area that is in focus, okay, is more. Okay, if the aperture is wide open like this, okay, then the depth of focus or the area that is in focus is very low. Okay, if it's wide. Okay, so all the lenses have aperture, and if it has a wide opening, the lens becomes expensive. Okay, this is a prime lens. I'll get back to that. So understand the concept of aperture. So if the opening is wide, it lets in more light. Okay, and you'll get more light, and then you can reduce the ISO. If the opening is small, it lets in less light. So that's the concept. Okay, and next we have shutter speed. So as I mentioned, I showed you the shutter inside the camera. So you can see the shutter here. All right. So at what speed is it opening and closing? That's the shutter speed. All right. So it's opening and closing, right? If the speed of the shutter is faster, okay, it lets in less light. If the speed of the shutter is slow, for example, so it is fast, I'll reduce the shutter speed. See, it is slower, considerably slower. That means it's letting in more light. All right. Okay, can you just type in the chat box if you're following me? All right. So these are the three main pillars of photography. What are they? ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. If you can master these three and understand, most of your photography job is done. Then you can concentrate on other things. All right. These are some of the aspects as beginners of photography or learners of photography should keep in mind. White balance, and then as I mentioned, wide aperture is best for portraits. Portraits are photographing people, and narrow aperture is best for landscapes because more area is in focus. All right. So when you are taking a picture of wait, let me connect a camera. Maybe I'll be able to give you a better idea. All right, we're almost there. All right. Can you see the screen now? Can you see the screen now?
Yes, sir.
All right. This is directly from my camera. All right. If you can see. Or I can just show myself. All right. Can you see me? In the
Yes, sir.
chat box,
We can,
please.
sir.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes, sir. Yes,
if
sir.
you
Yes.
look at the right side of the screen that is shared, all right, you have something like ISO, shutter speed, and aperture is measured in f-stops. So can you see the cursor over there? So this is the f-stop. All right. So f-stop is at 2.8. 2.8 is low. So the opening is more. Okay, right. The opening of the lens is bigger. Right. That's the reason when you look at my face. So I'm bright. So I need to reduce my ISO. So I'm reducing it. Can you see the difference? I reduced the ISO from 1600 to 800, and the light, the exposure has reduced. If I reduce it even further, it's even less. All right. And if you can see the background, all right. If you can see the background, it's kind of blurred. Are you getting it?
Yes. Yes.
It's kind of blurred. So over here, shutter speed is 1/50th, okay, which is low. And then here aperture is 2.8, which is the number is low, but the opening of the lens is wide. And then ISO is 640. So what happens if I reduce, increase? All right. So now when focus, so what happens if I increase the f-stop number? So I'm increasing the f-stop number now. Are you able to see me? So if I increase the f-stop number, now the background is not that blurred. All right. Now the background is also visible. And if I reduce the f-stop number again, you can see the difference. Can you see the difference? The background is blurred. All right. So if you can understand these three elements, ISO, okay, I'm increasing the ISO. Okay, now it's brighter. And then f-stop, and then shutter speed. Even if you increase the shutter speed, the amount of light reduces. All right. So from 1/50th, I made it 1/25th. So the light has reduced, or the amount of light that is hitting the sensor has reduced. I'll keep it at 50. All right. So these are the basic concepts of photography. This is the triangle that you need to understand if you have to capture good images. All right. Let's get back to the presentation. Just type in the chat boxes if you understand the concept partially, at least. Okay, so I believe like you are able to understand the concept. All right, great. That's great. All right. So now we have the other things. So if you understood these three elements, then you can think about these. So you have white balance, which is nothing but temperature of your photograph. So if you're if you're taking a picture of a sunset, okay, the temperature is kind of high. So temperature is measured in kelvins, like you can say K, right, 1 minute. And then if you reduce the temperature, it goes towards the cooler side. If you increase the temperature, it goes towards the warmer side. Okay, that's the white balance. Usually I would suggest you to keep the white balance in the auto mode, unless you are going for some creative look, because nowadays most of the cameras have very good AI in them. They can judge the best suitable white balance for the scene. Okay, and I'll come to the section where you can edit the white balance later. Okay, so just remember these things before taking a picture. White balance, all right. Then wide aperture is best for portraits, narrow aperture is best for landscapes. Okay, and then play with the perspective. I want you all to understand that there are no set rules for a good photograph. All right, so all of a sudden you find some angle to be really interesting. Okay, maybe somebody must have taken Charminar from different angles, or the usual angle what everybody does. Maybe you saw a different angle of Charminar in Vizag, in Hyderabad. All right, so if you can see something which is interesting, you can click it. All right, so play with your perspective. And we've been I think all of you are familiar by now, like familiar with the rule of thirds. The other day we were discussing, Mr. Serij spoke about it, and yesterday Srinivas Akela sir from US, he spoke about the rule of thirds and golden rule, golden ratio. So it's basically you have to put the subject in one of the corners or one of the intersections. All right, maybe I'll be able to show that again, but I don't think like you require that because we already touched upon it. And when you photograph people, see that the eye is always in focus. Okay, no matter which equipment you're using, which tool you're using, maybe if you'll be using a smartphone, or if you're using a DSLR or mirrorless, see that the eye of the person is always in focus. Okay, and then pay attention to the background. Sometimes the background gets very busy, and then when you click a picture in that kind of a scenario, maybe the background is distracting. So pay attention to the background, maybe adjust your angle, and then invest in a tripod. Okay, so right now, like I'm using a small tripod to hold my mobile. Okay, tripod is nothing but a three-legged thing. All right, tripod dramatically improves the content that you are producing. All right, it stabilizes the image. And then if you are not just photography, even for video, a tripod is a must. Okay, if you want stable footage. Invest in a good photo editing software. I'll get to that. And then as I said, like there are no rules, no, that cannot be broken in terms of photography. You click. The most important thing is that you have to keep clicking. And then after clicking a certain number of pictures, you'll automatically know that what I'm doing is not right. Maybe it doesn't appeal to you after some time. So you learn from those mistakes. Okay, next time whenever you progress. So when we talk about photography in this age, it's not just about still photos. Okay, when you talk about photographs these days, it's a combination of both still images as well as motion, okay, or the video side of it. So when you look at the cameras that are coming out right now, okay, most of them are hybrid cameras. They can do both the things equally well. For example, the camera that I'm using right now, this is manufactured by Sony. It's called it's a mirrorless technology. It's called A7 A7 III. Okay, it goes by the name. So what what's good about this camera is it is equally good at taking pictures and equally good at taking videos. The same goes with your smartphone that you have in your hand. Okay, so now everything is integrated. Even a photojournalist nowadays like is no longer the person who clicks still images. The times are changing, and all the media houses nowadays, they're going digital, and then they're also focusing on the video side of it. Okay, still images, yes, they will be there, they speak volumes, and then it's an art, it's a creative art, it speaks to your heart. At the same time, video side of it is the new thing. You cannot ignore that. Okay, so your smartphones have them, cameras have them. The only thing is you need to understand how to capture videos. All right, so all the rules that apply to photography, most of them, all the rules that apply to the still images also apply to your videos, and then your videography. All right, so what is the difference then? What is the difference? So let's say videos let you establish authority and more personal feel to your message. You will be far more likely to connect to an emotional level with your audience if you use video versus another content type. Maybe right now that's the thing that is happening. The other day we have seen a advertisement or a short film about a orphan, and then how a transgender woman or transgender adopted her. It really moved us. Okay, so videos have the ability to reach you, or reach your soul, or reach your heart, or they convey the message better. Even today, when you look at the market, okay, when you look at digital marketing, videos have been playing a great role or important role. And now that with everybody, as I said, like 90% of the uh, mobile users click pictures, okay, and take videos. And you have seen video applications like TikTok become a huge hit with billions of users. All right, and then right now, like TikTok is banned in India, and who is actually benefiting from it is Instagram. Like Instagram immediately started a feature uh, similar to TikTok, and now you can upload 15-second videos on Instagram, and people are just migrating from TikTok to Instagram. Yeah, somebody said Reels. Okay, so I'm glad like people are listening. Okay, so Reels has become a thing now, and then Instagram, along with his photographs or still images, it also has the video side of it. It has IGTV. Okay, the same thing with Facebook has Facebook Watch, and YouTube, you already know it's a sensation. Okay, uh, it's a sensation, and every day millions and millions of videos are being uploaded. People are able to access them. People are able to create content from their houses or from their homes. They are able to go out and create content, and educators are being able to push out videos. People are learning from them. We have seen that. We have seen uh, explosion of information because of these tools and because of these platforms. And it's important to know the nuances of using them properly. All right. Right. So when it comes to video, these are the things that I want you to keep in mind. Framing and composition. So there are a couple of things that you need to keep in mind when you're photographing. Yeah, you photograph in landscape. Sometimes you photograph in. Uh, so this is like photographing in a landscape mode, and this is photographing in a portrait mode. All right. So you do that, but understanding the target is important. If you are creating a video for say YouTube, I would suggest you to record it in landscape, okay, landscape mode. And if you're creating something, some content for your Instagram Reels or TikTok or some other story, then you can record the video in portrait mode. All right. Same thing with your cameras. All right. So this is the landscape mode, and this is the portrait mode. All right. So know the target platform, and then create your content. All right. And then what's different from photography to videography is the frame rate. You need to understand the concept of frames per minute, frames per second. All right, I'll once again connect my camera to show this. Just can you just type in the chat box if you're able to follow me? It's almost there. All right, you can. Can you see the screen now? All right, now
Yes,
you can see
Paul,
the
sir.
screen. Okay.
Yes, yes.
So I'll discuss about video and how you can adjust the frame rate. Right. Can you tell me what's the normal frame rate that films are made in? Talking about movies, films, how many of you watch films? Okay, somebody, Florence ma'am said 24 frames. Okay, that's great. That's great. Okay, Haribabu sir says that's Greek and Latin. So it's 24 frames is correct. Most of our movies are made in 24 frames. And we can go up to 60 frames per second, 120 frames per second. And then some of the phones nowadays even have 940 frames per second, 840 frames per second. So what is this frame rate? What is frame rate? So frame rate, again, it's like clicking 24 images and putting them together. So if you click 24 images and put them together, all right, if you click 24 images and put them together, it becomes motion. All right, so it requires 24 images to create that motion effect. Earlier in the day, earlier in olden days, like if you watch some films of Charlie Chaplin or some black and white movies and Mookie movies, you'll be able to see the motion is jerky. Okay, how many of you seen them? Charlie Chaplin films, old films where they'll be running really fast. Okay, there's no flow, there is no cinematic flow. Everything was jerky because by then they did not have the concept of 24 frames. But once the concept of 24 frames came in, we were able to integrate sound and video together. All right. So if you watch olden films, there's only music, and then rarely you get to listen to the dialogues. All right. In old Charlie Chaplin films. All right. Because they were not able to integrate sound with the less frame rate. So once they developed 24 frames, it became a norm. And then it also felt natural. That's one of the reasons why everybody adopted 24 frames. So when it comes to 60 frames, okay, you can slow down the image. Okay, slow down the image, slow motion, 120 frames per image. So you can slow the action. Higher the frame rate, the slower the action becomes. All right. All right. Okay, get that aspect of it. So 24 frames is the norm, which you can make use of. Or if you are recording some action, let's say fast-paced action, somebody running or somebody a motorcycle cruising, okay, then you make use of 60 frames and then higher frame rates, okay, so that you can capture the motion, okay, you can mitigate the motion. Now, why is it important to understand this? So when you use a camera like this, all right, when you use a camera or even a smartphone, usually you get an option for the frame rates. Okay, frame rate, you can decide whether it should be 24 frames, 60 frames, and then the quality, whether it should be in 1080p or 720p or 4K. 4K is the new thing, and then people are even going for 8K, but then don't bother about it. Right now 1080p is good enough. Okay, 1080p is good enough. I was talking about the tripod, right? So this is the tripod. A simple tripod like this can be used for many purposes. Okay, even in your classrooms or whenever you're attending a Zoom meeting, Zoom or any other platform. Okay, maybe invest in this kind of a tripod for your mobile phone. Same goes with the cameras if you have them. All right. All right. So 24 frames. So if you are shooting something in 24 frames, then your shutter speed should be double the amount of the frame rate. All right. Did you understand that? If you are shooting in 24 frames, okay, then your shutter speed should be double. Okay, your shutter speed is always double. So 48 is the double of 24, okay, into 2. But then in the cameras, usually you have 1/25 and then 1/50. So the closest is 1/50. So I will go for 1/50. All right. Did you get the concept? All the other things remain the same, like f-stop and ISO. You can make use of them the way you're making use of them in the photography. All right. So in your digital cameras, if you are shooting at 24 frames, the shutter speed should be double. That is 1/50th. If you are shooting your video, let's say in 60 frames per second, 60 into 2, it should be 125. Okay. Can you see it on the screen?
Yeah.
So if you're shooting at 60 frames per second, your shutter speed should be double. So it should be 1/125. All right. And if you're shooting at 24, it should be, can you type it in the chat box? If you're shooting a video at 24 frames per second, what should be your shutter speed? So it's 1/50th. All right. So I'm going back to 1/50th. Now you'll get a cinematic feel to your video. All right. And if you want to focus on my eyes or my face, then your aperture should be, the f-stop number should be low and the aperture should be wide. All right. If you can see me, my background is blurred. Okay. And if I increase the f-stop, slowly even the background comes into focus. Can you see that? So it's the same with photography as well as video. But when it comes to video, you need to understand the concept of frames per second. And in the video, you cannot, or I don't advise you to change the f-stop when you're recording. Because in photography, it's a still image, you can adjust and then click a picture. But then when you're shooting a video and if you're adjusting the f-stop in the middle, what happens is there's this shift from one level to the other, and then there's this jerk which comes in the video, which is not good, which is not appealing. So don't change your f-stop while recording. Adjust the f-stop or aperture before hitting the record button. Adjust the ISO before hitting the record button. Or if your camera is very good at auto ISO or handling auto ISO, then leave it in the auto mode like I did now. And then f-stop, you adjust it beforehand and then start the recording. Okay, so Shashidhar sir asked.
Paul sir, there is again a request from Shashidhar sir to repeat the thing of aperture. Can you please, sir?
Yes, ma'am. I'll do that. 1 second. So, Sashi sir, I was just explaining about aperture. If you can see the lens, if you can see the lens, there's a small opening in it. All right. And when I adjust it, it becomes wide open, right? So I'm actually reducing the f-stop number now, right? When I reduce the f-stop number, when I increase the f-stop number, aperture becomes small. So a small hole in the lens allows lesser light, okay? And as it becomes wide, okay, it allows more light. So if you're in a dark situation, and you have to photograph, then I suggest you to use a wider aperture. But the problem with wider aperture is the depth of field. The depth of field is the amount of or the area that is in focus. The area that is in focus reduces. Okay, and aperture actually works like our iris. Okay, so when you want to all right. Okay, so all right. So I'll explain the relation between aperture and shutter speed, sir. Shutter speed, as you increase it, the light reduces. Okay, so if at all you're photographing a sport, photographing sports as fast moving action, then you need to have faster shutter speeds. Okay, that means like the faster the shutter speed, you're allowing less light to come in. So to compensate that, either you have to raise your ISO or you need to open your aperture wide open. That is like reducing the f-stop number. All right. I'll explain that, sir, again later because we are running out of time. I'll just move forward. I hope like you understood the concept. So higher the shutter speed, the amount of light that is coming will reduce, and then you'll be able to freeze the action. And if you have to have higher shutter speed, you need to increase your ISO or you need to open your aperture wide open. Okay. All right, sir. We'll just move forward. We're almost done. I just want you to understand the concept. And then another important element is light. If you can understand light in photography, you can master it. For example, I can show you the other side. So I'm using this light. Can you see this? Can you type in the chat box if you can see me? So I'm using a light. So it's simple. It's a simple setup. There's this umbrella, and then and you have a stand, light stand, and a bulb. All right. It's not at all expensive. Uh, it's not at all expensive. You can afford it. Maybe you can afford it even in the colleges if you want. So because there is light, you can see me properly. I'm properly exposed. And if you can understand that concept, no matter whatever tool you're using, it can be a mobile phone, it can be a DSLR, it can be a mirrorless camera, you'll be presentable, you are exposed well, okay? And the exposure is the essence of photography. And then once you are there, once this is taken care, like you can then compose yourself, or you compose the frame, all right? And then you look at the frame rate. Okay, am I exposing correctly? Check. Okay, am I in the center or on the, am I following the rule of thirds? Check. All right, and then you check the frame rate and you hit record. All right, and so in order to facilitate this, you need some accessories. All right, in order to facilitate this, you need some accessories. I'll quickly go through some of the accessories that you need for photographing. All right. Apart from the camera, you have to have lenses. So they come in different sizes and shapes. So this is a zoom lens. Okay. This is a zoom lens, like when you can adjust. So it's the 24 to 70. It's a mid-range, which is very useful for most of the activities. And then these are zoom lenses. All right. And you have another kind of lens, which is a prime lens. Prime lens doesn't have the zoom option. Okay. It is a fixed focal length lens. Okay. Okay. It's a fixed focal length lens. And so what is the advantage of prime lens over zoom lens is it has lesser moving parts inside this. So the picture quality usually is stunning when it comes to prime lenses. And whenever you see a beautiful picture of a model or a beautiful picture of a portrait of a person, usually it is taken with a portrait lens. All right. And 85 mm is the standard for portraiture, because it kind of reflects, or it kind of produces the image that we see with our eyes. Okay, so that's one of the tips. If you're clicking pictures of people, then try to go anywhere between 85 to 135 or 200. Okay, it will give a very good aspect ratio when you're clicking people. And when you're going for landscapes, maybe you can go for a wide angle like this. This is 1635. Okay, you can use you can make use of lenses like this for traveling or picturing large gatherings, or you can click pictures of the stars. All right, and then you can make use of a item like this. These are called flashes or speed lights. You mount them on top of the camera like this. Okay, if there is no light, and if you are clicking still images, then you can make use of this and then click pictures. All right, and then you need to have batteries, chargers. Okay, always have an extra battery if you're recording video. And then you need to have card readers. Okay, so card readers help you. So whatever pictures we click, they have to be recorded somewhere. And usually our cameras have an option of, my camera has 2 slots, but then usually the cameras come with 1 slot. So you have SD cards. Even SD cards, they are kind of advancing from SD card to CF cards and then CF Express cards. But usually in our cameras, we find these cards. All right. So to read this information, you need a card reader. All right, as I was showing. So invest in a good card reader, invest in a SD card. And when you talk about video, you also talk about audio. So make use of microphones. Nowadays, like you have microphones even for mobile phones, and a lot of TV channels nowadays, because the quality of the video that is coming out of the mobile phones is so effective. They started reporting just using their mobile phones, and then they're connecting it to a microphone. This is a Rode microphone, which I use for my Sony, and it's very useful. Okay. You can invest in something like this. All right. So we are running out of time now. So let's finish this. I'll
no problem, Paul. If at all the participants accept, we'll extend.
Yes,
but only the issue is we have Girdhari Lal Garg sir. Welcome, sir.
Yes,
You are in the fold. We appreciate your patience, and Paul sir will be slowly ending it up, sir. We can start the valedictory session as early as possible.
I'll just talk about the editing part of it, sir. Like everything that we click, everything that we capture, or everything that we record also needs to be processed. Okay. We need to be processed whatever we are clicking, right? Even in olden days, whatever pictures that we clicked using a film are again processed in the dark room. All right. Now we don't have dark rooms, but then we have digital platforms which do the job for us, or which allow us to do that. Right. I'm just sharing some of the apps. If you are clicking with a mobile, some of the apps that you can use to edit your photographs. And if you are recording video, then I have some apps that can do that on your mobile. Just a second. All right. All right. Can you see my screen now? Yeah.
Yes.
So
yes.
these are some of the mobile photo editors that you can make use of on your mobile phone. Google Snapseed is free. Okay, you can make use of it. Adobe Lightroom for mobile is free. You can make use of it. If you are using an iPhone, then iPhone Photos is really great. And Google Photos is also good. And another aspect is, as I mentioned in the beginning of my session, we are kicking a lot of images. And in 2020, as I mentioned, we're going to click 1.4 trillion photographs. So where are we going to store them? What are we doing with them? Okay, so after clicking, we need to save them somewhere, organize them, and then we can share them whenever it is needed. Okay, so Google Photos is another platform which can be used for storing your photographs, which is I think you can make use of it. Automatically backs up your photographs, and then it also organizes the photographs very well. So you can make use of Google Photos if you want to back up your photographs, because storage is limited, and we need to be, some of the memories needs to be saved. And then in terms of video, these are the two things I feel or I've used. I feel they are good for editing. There are many others, you can explore them, but then I personally use these two. iMovies, if you are on Apple ecosystem, and Vita, it can be used on Androids and other platforms as well. And then these are the desktop photo editing software. We're talking about professional stuff here. So desktop photo editing software, like you have Adobe Photoshop. I think everybody must have heard about it. And Adobe Lightroom. I think this is one software which has become really popular when it comes to still images. All right. So it's like, it's the opposite of darkroom. It's a digital thing. Earlier, like we had darkroom where we went inside and processed images, but using Lightroom, you can do that nowadays. Maybe I'll explore this later, like whenever we meet again. And then in terms of video, you have desktop video editing softwares. Adobe Premiere Pro is one, which is professional. And then Final Cut Pro X if you are on Apple ecosystem. And DaVinci Resolve is actually a free software that you can download and use. But then all of them need a bit of learning. Okay, if you're interested in taking your videos to the next level, I think you can download one of these softwares and have it a go. And you have n number of videos educating you or teaching you or tutorials that allow you to learn on YouTube. So you can make use of the platform and then learn about these softwares. So Final Cut Pro, if you are on Apple ecosystem, Adobe Premiere Pro and DaVinci Resolve if you are on PCs or Microsoft. All right, so towards the end, this is a popular saying, shoot now, edit later. So whenever the action is happening, wherever the action is happening, sometimes we don't have the time to adjust all these things. And the best tool that you have is the one that is in your pocket. Okay, take it out, shoot it, forget about the length of the video, or don't edit it in your mind while recording when the action is taking place. Shoot it and then later edit using the softwares that I have suggested. So any other queries, like you can actually contact me if you want to. That's my 1 second. That's my website. Maybe you can go through it, and maybe you can see like how I make use of this evolving tool of photography and video to capture the world around me. And if you can see, just I went to I traveled to Himalayas, and then I've captured some images, some videos over there. So you can, I'll leave the link in the description. You can watch it. That's on YouTube. And at the same time, I also write blogs using, when I click photographs and then I write blogs. So you can do that using this medium. So that's in Spiti Valley. It's closer to Tibet. And that's the road that one has to travel through. All right, sir, are we short of time? I'm done with my presentation. I'm just playing the video.
Oh, that's great. That's great, Paul. We are running short of time, and
yes, sir.
If you really like to share that video, kindly
I'll drop
it in the chat box. Thank you so much for your patient presentation. You did never lose your track of showing all what you have been showing to me for the past many years. Really, Paul, a friend and a brother to me, who went on doing all his experimentation from the beginning, maybe when he thought that he would really do photography from scratch level. I understand his level of interest. You know, he has even dedicated all his life for the photography. Though he loved to be part of teaching English for some time, I requested him to be the part of teaching. But you know, his dream, his vision, his interest, and his love towards photography made him a wonderful, successful photographer, and now as a good presenter. Thanks to Mr. Paul, who has done a bold attempt, who has put up a lot of interesting attempt in bringing out everybody understand. Now, quickly, we'll take
My
a
pleasure,
couple
sir.
of questions. Ahmad, I have seen you raised your hand, sir. Maybe you have left something on chat box. Generally, you do that. Chat manager, if at all you have seen anything that Ahmad sir has written, because Ahmad has raised his hand.
Yes,
Do we
yes,
have a
sir.
question from? Yes, yes,
He has written in the chat box a question.
yes.
Uh, Paul sir, this is Dr. Afaq Ahmad's question.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thanks for making us educated about the technical aspects involved in shooting with the camera. Your expertise seems to have no limits in terms of camera and photography. Sir, there is a question. Kindly explain the actualities and technicalities involved in rule of thirds. Please shed light with pertinent examples if possible. This is the question posed by Afaq Ahmad, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Sir, as we were discussing, maybe sir, do we have time to, can I show the camera once again?
I have to take permission of Girdari Lal sir. Maybe
Yes, sir.
we can take
All
5
right.
minutes. No problem. You can take it. No problem. You can take
Okay.
it.
I'll just share my camera screen once again, sir. Afaq Ahmad, sir. So if you see, can you see 1 second? Okay. Can you see the screen now? Now, can
Yeah,
you
yeah, we
see?
can see.
Can you see the grid lines
Grid lines.
on the screen?
Yeah,
So
grid
the
lines
whole
visible.
screen is
Visible, sir.
divided into blocks. So you have these corners. Can you see this? This is one corner. This is another corner. This is another corner. This is another corner. So usually when you talk about rule of thirds, they ask you to place the subject in any one of the corners. Okay, it's more aesthetic. So when you click a picture of a landscape, or when you click something else, if you keep the subject in one of these corners, okay, your picture actually becomes that much better. All right, are you getting it? So that's the rule of thirds. When you talk about rule of thirds, if you place yourself in one of the corners, one of those lines, then your picture actually becomes a lot better. This is applicable to both video as well as audio, as well as photography. So I hope you understood, sir.
He said
Yes.
yes in the chat
Yes.
box, Paul, sir. He's following
Okay,
you.
okay. Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Any other questions, ma'am?
Anybody else would like to ask questions, or shall we
Sir,
proceed? Because
we have Prithvi Raj, sir, who posted a question in the chat box.
all right.
How much of editing is permissible? Because I feel tweaking, saturation, light, etc. make the picture lose its originality. This is what the question posed by Prithviraj sir to Paul sir.
Okay, sir. Nice question. I think it's actually a question of debate most of the time. Like, how much can we edit? Okay, I would say it depends on your target. Where are you using the image? Okay, if it's for your personal edification, or to satisfy your creative urge, then it all depends on you. And if you are doing it for a journal, or for a newspaper, then there is a limit, or what you would say, usually whenever we photograph for newspapers, what we need to keep in mind is we are just reflecting what is there, and then we are showing it to others. Okay, so as I see it, like I'll try to create an image that I saw in real time. All right, if at all I'm using the picture for a newspaper. Earlier, I worked with Times of India. I was a photojournalist, and then I became a correspondent over there. So how we look at a photograph is again depends on how we edit a photograph. Depends on where you are using it. Okay, if at all it's for your creative satisfaction, then it's up to you, like how you want the picture to be. But if it is
Hello.
hello,
Sorry
yeah,
to intervene, sir. I have one small question.
yes, ma'am.
How many frames do we use to shoot a short film?
Usually 24 frames, ma'am. It's also a motion picture. Usually 24
Okay.
frames. And if you want to shoot a short film in which you have a person walking on the beach, and you want to slow the motion. Okay, you want to show
Okay.
the person walking on a beach in a slow motion, then you can increase your frames per second. You can go up to 120.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
so
sir.
it depends, ma'am. Usually 24 frames. Okay.
Because nowadays students are shooting short films through their mobiles. So I was wondering, like, how many frames and all. Is it
As a
possible,
goal,
sir, to shoot a short film in a mobile camera?
it is possible, ma'am. It is possible. Many have shot films, and then some of them even uh, got awarded in international festivals, film festivals. It is possible, ma'am. Just you have to. There are some limitations, but then if you can understand the limitations like low light, and then using proper audio, uh, and then framing, then you can with our modern technological advancements in smartphones, you can easily shoot a short film, ma'am.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Paul, sir.
My pleasure,
There,
sir. It's been an honor.
there are a lot of appreciations, and then there are even comments, critical reviews on the talk that you have made.
Yes, sir.
There are even a lot of things on chat, and I hope chat manager can read little later. Now
Yes, sir.
it's time. Now it's time for us to take directly the session of valedictory. Before going into valedictory, I can, from my bottom of heart, I can thank you, Paul Nicodemus, who has given a lot of interesting insight into how photography is different from the gadgets. When we can see the story of the gadgets, I have felt like, okay, even if I do not like, or I did not study much of science, I have understood the science of photography by Paul's lecture. This is quite interesting, and it is absolutely a right ending session, an eventual session, which has made an eye open for everybody to understand that the photography is also not so easy, though it is quite artistic. And you have given us a hope that how we can carry it forward as an outcome of this FDP. Thank you very much, Paul, sir.
I'm
We'll
honored,
now
sir. It's my pleasure.